Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us. In a dry and dusty climate like we have here in Arizona, asthma and allergies are more than just seasonal nuances. They can seriously impact daily life and even become medical emergencies. Joining us today is Dr. Hubbard, Medical Director and Emergency Medicine Physician at Exceptional Community Hospital, to talk about managing symptoms and knowing when to seek help. Dr. Hubbard, asthma and allergies are incredibly common across all age groups and young children and older adults. So what are the most common triggers in our area, and why do they tend to flare up this time of year?
Well, I think in this climate, the weather's nice all year round. So you're out and about all year. You have one of the largest gardens here in the world, really. I mean, they grow a lot of stuff here. So there's a lot of pollen, there's a lot of dust, and just in general, in our lives, there's a lot of chemicals that we're exposed to every day, and those can cause allergic reactions, or those can cause asthma flare-ups. So there's just a lot out there that can cause these issues if somebody's tends to have it.
Absolutely. And what are some signs people should look out for, especially this time of year?
Well, basically the sign for asthma is just trouble breathing and wheezing. That's pretty common. It can be very mild. And most people don't know this, but one of the signs of asthma is coughing, especially if it's at night, you're trying to sleep. There's something called cough variant asthma, where you don't have a lot of wheezing, but you have a lot of coughing, and a lot of times it seems to be worse at night. There's also exercise-induced asthma. So somebody who doesn't really have problems breathing, but then they start exercising, they start getting short of breath or start coughing, that's another sign of asthma, and it probably needs to be looked into.
That's very interesting. For those living with asthma or even allergies, what are some symptoms they can do to almost prevent these type of flare-ups?
Well, for allergies, there's some pretty good over-the-counter medications. You have something called Claritin or Zyrtec. Those are over-the-counter. You can take those. It's a once-a-day pill. They're very affordable. You can do the generic as well as the name brand. When I was a young man, I had allergies, and Claritin was like $10 a pill. So now it's $10 for 100 pills. So it's very affordable now. Something else that works very well for allergies would be nasal steroid sprays. The name brand that comes to my mind is Flonase. You squirt a couple of squirts in each nostril every day, and it almost just gets rid of allergies.
And so when those symptoms cross the line into something a little bit more like emergency, head to the emergency room, what can people do in the meantime to almost control their breathing?
Well, if you have asthma, most people are going to have medication at home. They'll have something called albuterol. Albuterol comes on fast and it goes off fast. It's a rescue medication. So if you're having trouble breathing, albuterol is the go-to medication to treat asthma. Most people have a prescription for that. The next thing that they have is something that lasts longer than albuterol. There's a couple of options for this, and most people who have a history of asthma will have these medications at home, and they should use them as prescribed by their doctor, and that will usually keep them out of trouble. But when it gets to the point where they're doing their home treatments and they're still having trouble breathing, that's when they really need to be seen. And anytime you're having trouble breathing, you do need to be seen, because that's one of the top things that you need to do every day is breathe. When that starts to go wrong, then that can be a big issue.
Absolutely. And so what should individuals or families do to just stay prepared?
I would say the number one thing is, if you know your family member or yourself have a history of asthma, it's very important to keep your follow-up appointments with your primary care doctor and make sure that you have those medications at home that you need. One of the things that we see very often is, for whatever reason, people run out of their medication and they have an asthma attack and they don't have anything to treat it with at home, and that's when we see them in the ER quite often.
Absolutely. Well, for more information for stuff like this, you can head to our website at kyma.com. Dr. Hubbard, thank you so much for joining us in studio, and stick with us for more news.